Good afternoon and welcome to this pre-recorded session, Tackling a Mammoth in Physics with the help of co-op students. Thank you for taking the time to attend this session. My name is Melanie Myers and I'm a project manager at BC Campus in Open Education with responsibility for STEM and business programs. I want to begin by acknowledging that the land where I live and work is on the traditional Tk'emlúps-te-Secwepemc territory, and I want to honor the culture, language, and traditions of the Secwepemc people. My co-presenters are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples. I'm pleased to be joined for this presentation by two faculty members, 5 students, and the graphic artist working on this project who will share their experiences with us. Dr. Agnes D'Entremont is an associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of British Columbia. Jennifer Kirky is an instructor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Douglas College. Also in this session, we'll hear from 5 co-op students, Ashley Forbes, Daniel Yum, David Kim, Nathan Wan, and Patrick Thangaraja, as well as a graphic designer, Brina Schenk. We're thankful to Open Ed 2020 for the opportunity to share this project with you, and I want to say a special thanks to Dennis Yip for his help in creating this video. We're all really looking forward to any questions and comments you might have for us. So if you'd like to participate in the live chat for this presentation, there's 2 options. You can chat with us on Twitter using the hashtag MammothOER. That's MAMMOTHOER. Or you can post your questions and view responses in a Google Sheet, which is at http://bity.ws/AO8T. So as part of the STEM Zero Textbook Cost project at BC Campus, we've been funding a number of projects with the overall goal of reducing cost of textbooks for students. And this year we identified a gap in first-year engineering programs in the province. And one major gap in available OER is in classical mechanics. So there's one commercial textbook, which is in 2 volumes. It's basically being used across virtually all classical mechanics courses here in BC. And the reasons for this is that the work required to develop a resource that can replace this Mammoth textbook is a major undertaking. So we knew right away that this would be a multi-year project and would require significant funding and collaboration. And especially if we were to address the barrier that we hear too often, that the OER in the subject area can't meet the quality that the commercial textbooks offer. We also recognize that while the ultimate goal was to replace this costly commercial textbook and homework system, we needed to take a phased approach to the development. So our first phase is to develop as many problems as possible to establish a good foundation. And then we wanted to make sure that the problems included high quality graphics. So the next phase is then we aim to expand, include problems with others in the field who wish to contribute to the problem set in the Open Problem Library. And then finally, there'll be a phase to create a textbook based on many of the problems that we develop as part of this project. So up next, we'll hear from Agnes and Jennifer, who will explain a bit more detail about the project, about why the Open Homework System WebWork was chosen as a platform, and how the work and problem development is approached from the faculty standpoint. And we'll then hear from the co-op students who we asked a series of questions about their experience on the project.
We started building problems for WebWork in engineering about 4 years ago. Prior to that, there were only about 300 engineering problems in 3 subjects in the Open Problem Library. The Open Problem Library is a public problem bank, and it contains about 35,000 problems, but most of them are math problems. We initially created problems for a range of subjects across second-year engineering. In this project, we're going deeper. We're taking dynamics and trying to build enough problems that we could replace a commercial textbook. Students learning dynamics need to practice a lot. They need to solve dozens or maybe hundreds of problems on their own time during the year in order to learn the material. That's why commercial textbooks have up to 3,000 practice problems for students to do. So with this in mind, knowing that there wasn't anything out there that I could give to my students instead of their commercial textbook, I decided to apply for some funding and work towards being able to assign an open textbook by building more problems. Each dynamics problem is a lot of effort to create. It takes hours. You have to come up with a real life scenario. You have to make sure that all of the numbers work together, that you have the right amount of information given to the students so that they can solve the problem. Plus, you need to check it, you need to code it, and these are physical systems that often have diagrams that contain information. So the diagrams have to be created and they have to be checked for accuracy. It ends up being a lot of work. In addition, for web work, because we can parameterize problems, which just means we can make some of the values variable between students. So one student gets 5 kilograms, another gets 10 kilograms, and another gets 12. That means that students can't directly copy their final answers. They have to work through the problem themselves. So we also have to check that that range of variables that we're going to assign doesn't produce any errors. We often do the final check by deploying the problems to students, so that we have 100 or 120 students trying that problem, and we can see if any one person gets a fun, funky answer, or if there's something that's unclear or missing in the problem. So that's our final check.
Homework systems and practice. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about this project is that students need to be able to practice. And the advantage of an online homework system is that immediate feedback. And then, of course, you can use the questions for actual formal testing. But say there's so much literature behind the fact that practice, getting that immediate feedback. Web work, green, it works, is so valuable for their learning. So that's why coding this in WebWork, which is becoming an industry standard, certainly in mathematics, and getting there, say, with physics, and the British Columbia system is choosing WebWork as the open homework system. So that's why this project is important. That's why we chose WebWork. Because sometimes people might think that we're kind of doing this textbook thing backwards. We haven't bothered with the book or the reasons, with kind of the written theory, partly because it's out there. The theory is based on Sir Isaac Newton's 400 years old. And there are a number of open books, say from OpenStax and other places, that cover the theory well. There's the Mechanics Map project that other people are helping to support. So the theory is there, because there's actually very little quote-unquote theory in this textbook, in this course on static dynamics. It's all application, it's all problems. So that's why it was so important, for the sake of the students, so they could practice, that we put our energy into making the questions first. And we'll, get around to writing the quote-unquote textbook.
It's pretty clear we can apply these topics to any system when you see some of the Mammoth problems that we created. We came up with this title for this presentation, and then proceeded to have a lot of fun creating problems involving mammoths, which just goes to show you that this applies to anything. Really, any system falls under statics and dynamics. A real strength of this project has been working across institutions. Because we have slightly different contexts and slightly different focuses, we've been able to sort of bring together things that everyone will hopefully be able to use. I really enjoyed working with students on these types of WebWork development projects. The students have often just been in the trenches. They've just been learning this stuff, so it's fresh, and they remember what was challenging and where they got stuck, and they can target problems to teach students to get over those areas. They also bring us a sense of fun to the problems. So a little joke there, a little funny situation here. It's really nice to see the humor they bring. the students will gain skills as well. So besides the technical skills like coding and learning about GitHub, they also gain skills in project management, which is actually quite central to engineering. So we're talking about having hundreds of different files at different stages of progress, keeping track of all of that, handing off things between them and the artist or them and a second student, checking everything that comes back, keeping track of deployment. All of that is going to be actually useful skills.
Collaborating with the students has been such a great joy. Yeah, I've been teaching this course, say, on and off, literally over the decades, but say it was a much different role and a lovely role working with co-op students. And oh my goodness, say the idea was to have them come up with brand new questions, and oh, they are delightfully devious and amazing type questions. It was a great joy to truly share the knowledge at that level. I mean, I've learned so much. I know when I teach this course again, which will be in January 2020, is I'm going to be there with so much better resources and so much more information for my Douglas College students, thanks to the work that I did with the students. So we've been working with this amazing artist, Brina Schreck, and once again, the collaboration, we're talking about worlds colliding literally, is that she was a great artist, is a great artist, and so the technical language that she ended up learning amazingly quickly, and realized like we're precise about some things, but incredibly open about other. And this collaboration back and forth has been incredibly fruitful. I've learned a lot from her, and she, of course, I know has learned a lot from me and the students.
This has been an extremely rewarding experience, and it's very creative, and it's actually taken me out of my comfort zone, and I get to work with these two amazing women who are leading this project, and it's providing fun and creative problems to students, and it's free, and that's a pretty amazing thing to be part of. Period. I am living proof that you don't need to actually know how to answer the physics problems in order to create the diagrams for them. The number one question I'm asked is, oh, I bet you're learning so much, I bet you can answer all the questions now. And the answer is a flat no, I can't. But I can create the images really well now. You'd think with physics problems you would get a lot of boxes and pulleys and arrows and kind of boring stuff, and there are all those things, but they've also incorporated aliens and Ogopogos, satellite dishes, like parachutes and mammoths and all sorts of really fun things that I get to draw, and it's a lot more than just arrows.
What did you learn through working on this project?
For me, most likely is probably going to be the just the amount of sheer coding that I had to do. It was a lot of coding. I really burned the syntax of Perl and PGML and the platform of Woodwork. It's all etched in my memory now. It can't be forgotten. Another thing is that organization is really, really important, and we made sure to hammer that home early on. Our supervisors, Jennifer and Agnes, they were very, very keen on specific naming conventions, file names, and just making sure that whatever we did was logged and accounted for in Excel spreadsheets and whatnot. I think that really helped our organization and really helped when we delegated our work.
I think the big things I learned was learning how to be a bit more self-sufficient, self-driven, organized in general. Obviously, the pandemic is happening, everyone is in crazy scenarios, and I had to work from home for this job. And I thought that would be no big deal because, like, I love being at home. But it really got hard because if I felt almost too relaxing to be in this comfortable scenario. It's not like I had anyone watching over me or pestering me about getting this work done. So I had to really lean on myself to figure everything out. And I'm quite happy with how everything turned out to be. I think I grew quite a lot in that regard. I'd also say my overall understanding of dynamics has expanded, as you might expect from working on homework problems every day, 5 days a week, for 4 months. I ended up taking a tutoring job just for a little bit right after this one, and I could tell that the way I was explaining things was more coherent. I knew the subject better, so I could teach it better. So I am quite appreciative of that.
The surprising thing I learned from doing this work is realizing how hard it is to actually make questions as opposed to solving questions. As a student, I thought that solving questions would be harder, but now that I'm on the other side, I can definitely say that creating problems is harder.
What are you most proud of from your work on this project?
What I am most proud of from this project is creating relevant and working mechanics problems using my current knowledge of mechanics. I am especially proud of being able to create these resources that will be used by my fellow students to enhance their learning experience.
The work that I'm most proud of from this project would have to be the really silly and fun questions. I think a lot of the times when studying, it can be really easy to get caught up in questions that feel mundane or boring, but I really enjoyed making silly questions with aliens or dogs and fun stuff like that I would enjoy doing.
I'd say the thing that I'm most proud of is probably the way I was able to apply creative but realistic scenarios to each question. Like each scenario asked was something that students might find happening in the real world comparatively to just like random linkage systems or ball and stick models, blah blah blah, just very generic, very boring systems. So I tried to apply things like, oh, you're trying to move a carpet and there's a statue on top, or a concrete barrier has gone loose on a truck or something like that. Like a more realistic but somewhat like creative scenario, so I can actually ask these dynamic concepts. I was also quite proud of how I handled some of the crazier questions. Something that definitely wouldn't happen in the real world, but I could still emulate it being kind of realistic. I ended up creating these characters that are completely original, not found in any other media, not inspired by any other media, totally 100%, called Montana James and his daughter Mississippi Jane. And they were essentially movie characters, so they would find themselves in these hilarious but unique situations, such as like running in a pipe away from monkeys or something like that. And that way I could, ask these harder kind of out of the box questions, but still have like a grounded effect overall. Like people would understand what might be happening in the situation.
Was there anything surprising about doing this work?
Yeah. I think the number one thing for me that really caught me off guard was actually how difficult it was coming up with original questions. I thought that professors could just and just like quickly whip up a question, throw it on a test, and that'd be it. But like, man, it's really hard, not just because like you have to come up with a scenario, but also just designing the question in a way that the students can solve it with the knowledge they have, because oftentimes we have to simplify a lot of things and specific variables need to be given.
The amount of time it takes to develop a math or a physics question, even at a very basic one, and to have it be, I guess you could say, flawless or foolproof in a way that if it was to be implemented on a wider range, it wouldn't result in like 40 emails from students saying this thing is wrong or that or this isn't loading. So I think I really underestimated the amount of work that goes into a web work question or just an assessment in general.
What would you say to students about the benefits of participating in open development?
I think the very clear, obvious one is number one, you get good. You just get good at answering questions. Since you are now in the seat of the instructor and you know how to make questions afterwards, you kind of know as a student what you need to find in order to solve the question. So I guess you could get better grades that way. You just become a better student.
I see that the problems that I have created through my work in OER would provide further resources for my peers to practice and further enhance their knowledge and test their knowledge using the problems.
To the students that are thinking about participating in open development, I highly recommend it. It gives you a chance to input your creativity and additions to a complex project that can have a big impact in the future.
How do you see your involvement with an open project impacting your future work or education?
I can very tangibly see my involvement with OER as through EUS tutoring, we're actually implementing some of the questions this year, this semester and next semester for Phys 170. I also think that I really would advocate for profs to give OER questions to students, maybe not necessarily as assigned homework, but like extra problems. I know I always really benefited from extra problems and extra problem sets to keep me on track, because I definitely need to, in order to be confident in the material, I definitely need a lot of practice problems, because that's how I personally learn. So I think I would definitely advocate that way for my profs to use those in their future.
I'd say it's already affected me quite profoundly. I've started creating my own website for an OER project in which I will be uploading some of my notes from Mech 2 as well as some other subjects I took in science that I have experience with, just so that people who want to learn more about engineering can, and they have the resource too. And I'm doing this because I think it's super awesome. Like, who doesn't want free resources to learn? I think everyone should have a right to education. And if they have the drive to, then they should be, they should be given everything they need to in order to accomplish that. And, I benefit from doing this project. I learned how to code HTML. I learned how to do CSS, format LaTeX, etc. And all it takes for me is just to put in a little extra hard work, and all these people can get this stuff for free. So, it's a win-win. And so I'm definitely an advocate for OER in general. I think doing this project also, let me be a bit more understanding of professors. I understand how much work their job is now, and I think it'd be great if more of them could actually implement OER, because I think that actually would lessen their workload, because maybe they have to make less questions for homework sets or whatever.
When I create my own personal projects, I would also like for them to be OER, as I can share them with others and make them easily accessible as well.
We've learned so much, we've surveyed the students, we've gotten so much more efficient. Web work itself, is getting easier and easier to use, due to a lovely emulator. So I'm so looking forward to continuing with this project. So we'll end up with something, both the statics and dynamics, with thousands of questions and thousands of high quality images.
I just want to emphasize that this project would not be possible without the contributions from multiple organizations, and especially the leadership from BC Campus. And we hope that as we continue on, we draw in more institutions, more instructors who contribute, and we ultimately end up with a resource that we can all use for our mechanics courses in engineering.
Thank you so much to all the co-op students who are willing to share their experiences with us. We're looking forward to continuing this work with the students, and be happy for anyone interested who wants to find out more or is interested in collaborating with us in the future. So you can email me at mmyers@bccampus.ca or reach out to Agnes and Jennifer as well. Thanks again for participating today, and enjoy the rest of the conference.